All right, so this is going to be fun. Who's ready? All right, so I'm just going to start off with this. Listen, there are levels to this game, okay, guys? Sometimes you guys look at me like I'm up here, right? Well, I look at David, and he's up here, right? So we are all trying to get to that next level, and you get to that next level by learning and by experiencing things and by surrounding yourself with the right people. So I was very fortunate enough to meet David and his wife, Kristen, 2 years ago. Our wives set up our first dinner together.
Our first date.
Our first date, yeah. The entire ride to dinner, I'm in the car with Heather. I'm like, why do I got to go to this dinner? Who are these people? I've been bitching and complaining. You know how we do sometimes. Apparently, David was doing the same thing to his wife.
Exact. Like, do we really have to do this?
And it was the wildest thing. Literally within 3 minutes, we just realized, we are buddies, and, immediately just became, best friends. And I've learned so much from him. So I'm going to start with David sharing a story. So it was during our wedding, and every night I would sneak away from Heather. Sorry, honey, I love you. And I would go hang out with David. It was just me and him on his patio. And I was telling him, I was 40 at the time. And I was telling him, man, if I only knew what I knew now back then, because, where I grew up, I didn't know about any of this. I didn't know what an entrepreneur was. I didn't know what Wall Street was. I didn't know what the stock market, all these things. And I said, if I would have just been around that environment sooner, I would be so much farther today. And I'm going to let him share what he told me.
Well, let me start by saying this might be the worst speaking spot on the planet. I have to follow the cast of Selling Sunset and Tarek, and I sit between you people and lunch. This is as bad a spot as you could possibly be given. So I appreciate you hanging in there and being here. But it's interesting. I know which story he wants me to tell because he told me 4 times yesterday and today to tell this story. But I'm going to pivot just a tad, and I'm going to start by talking about expansion, which is really why most of us are here, right? We want to expand. We want to grow. We want to go to the next level. And Tarek said something earlier, success is a game of inches. What we say every day, and I'm, chairman and CEO of a publicly traded data and AI company. I'm chairman of an investment company. I'm chairman of a family office. I'm chairman of a pharmaceutical company. God knows why they made me chairman of that, but I am. And what we say in every meeting is, how do you get 1% better today? That's it. If you can get 1% better at the end of the year, you will literally be 365% better than you started that year. Literally. Now I'll tell the story. So literally, when we talked about expansion, Tarek was talking about, God, how do you know this stuff? How do you understand it? Where have you done? Well, talk to my kids. They do not think I'm that smart. But bottom line, I told them about the goldfish. And for those of you who do not know, a goldfish physiologically grows to the size of the tank in which you put it. So a half-inch goldfish in a 1-gallon tank, when put into a 2-gallon tank, will grow to 1 inch. When put into a 4-gallon tank, will grow to 2 inches, and so on and so forth. Humans are exactly the same. Because when we see the realm of possible, we can grow to it. If you do not see the realm of possible, you cannot grow to it. One of the favorite statistics I throw out is 82% of people who are entrepreneurs grew up one concentric circle from an entrepreneur because they saw the realm of possible. And everybody is here today to see what is the realm of possible. And Tarek, who is very humble, is one of the most amazing men I know, and truly very few people that I love spending time with. And Tarek and Heather are Kristen and I's closest friends. They made me godfather to baby Tristan, once again, and Kristen godmother, and truly, for everything I've accomplished in my life, if having my children was my number one most proud accomplishment, number two is marrying my wife, number three is being godparent to Tristan.
So how big can a goldfish get?
You know, as candy, to steal from candy, goldfish can get really fucking big. You know, if you put a goldfish into the ocean, now they're not saltwater fish, but go with me here. We then begin to call them carp. So if you ever go to Japan and you see these massive carp, they're actually goldfish, literally. They're just in lakes or in streams. And the trick, of course, is getting to that bigger tank. It's understanding what is in the realm of possible. And it's not understanding it just by watching it on TV. It's not understanding it just by reading a book. It's truly believing it. That is half the battle.
I couldn't agree more. And I want all of you to think about this for a second. Think to yourself, how big is the tank that you're currently in? Really think about that. How big of a tank do you want to be in? Because this is the ocean we've built, and we like to take goldfish and turn them into carp. So if you're ready to jump out of your little tank and jump into the sea, we're ready for you. Because what he said is completely true. It's about your environment. It's about who you surround yourself with. It's about who you learn from. And these are just extremely important things. So I'm going to ask David a couple questions here. We'll start.
And I purposely didn't look at them, so we'll see what they are.
Me too.
Well, I hope whoever wrote them for us doesn't make me look like an idiot. Mike, I'm looking at you.
All right. So, as entrepreneurs, we're constantly taking risks and making tough decisions. Can you share with the audience a pivotal moment in your journey as an entrepreneur where you had to make critical decisions, and what factors did you consider in that process?
So I'll answer the question differently. It's a great question, but I'm not going to answer it the way it's asked. People often ask me, how do you deal with risk? People deal with risk every day. You take risk when you get up in the morning. You take risk when you buy a stock. You take risk when you decide to make a career change. All of that is important. And people ask me, how do you measure risk? What does lead to success? And what I always say is an aptitude for risk, not a pure desire for risk, is what separates the winners from the losers. When I was a kid, my father taught me to take out a yellow sheet of paper. It was yellow because it was a legal pad back then. They probably don't even make these anymore. I'm old. But literally, you would take out this sheet of paper and you would draw a line down the center. And my dad would say, write the good on the left and the bad on the right. I will sit in meetings when we are making, in some cases, billion-dollar decisions. And we will write on a piece of paper and I'll say, what's the upside? What's the downside? The way I explain it to people is, would you bet $1 to possibly win 3 cents? Probably not. It's a bad bet because you could lose the whole buck and your upside is 3 cents. But would you bet $1 to potentially lose 25 cents but make $10? Well, that's a good bet. That is aptitude for risk. It's understanding what's your upside and what's your downside. And one of the things you heard all morning from everybody, and it was quietly said, but to me it's one of the most important things of winning, is hard work. If you work hard and you have a good aptitude for risk, meaning you understand when you look at this particular piece of real estate, this is the downside, this is the upside. And when you have a mentor like Tarek who can help you see that, you're going to win.
And you guys see me sitting up here like listening with you guys? I'm like, tell me more, tell me more. I'm like so excited. He's so smart. It's fantastic. He told me about the Milky Way, the internet, all this stuff I don't remember, but he knows everything. I'm telling you, he knows everything.
Was the Milky Way a candy bar?
It's that too. Did you know that the internet, there's cables at the bottom of the ocean that go from here to like all over the world? Did not know that. I was always wondering, like, where does it go? How does it get there?
They're actually these huge ships that have nothing but spools of fiber optic cable on them that drop the cables that go across from each continent that connect into centralized server facilities that allow information to travel seamlessly between the world.
Half the time I have to Google the words that he says. But I listen sometimes. You know why stars sparkle? Anybody? Because of, what is it called? Cosmic dust?
So it takes about 1 million years. No, he's right. He did listen. It takes about, when you look up in the sky and you see a star, that is a sun from another galaxy, and it takes about 1 million years at light speed, which is about 300,000 kilometers per second, to move from that star to your eye. But dust crosses between the light and your eye, between when the light leaves that star and when it hits your eye, and that dust creates the interruption in the particles of light which look like it is sparkling. Is this what we're really here to talk about?
Do you guys like this stuff? I also learned when you're looking at a star, you're looking at history because it started traveling 1 million years ago.
Yes.
Pretty neat. Okay, question 2.
You might need the mic.
So I was excited.
By the way, we're all hungry. Like, this is horrible. Why don't you feed us, Tarek?
Well, I find...
The only thing between lunch is this interview.
Right, exactly.
All right, so David, you know, I've always admired your modesty and humility, and you know, you've built these massively successful companies, especially Zeta, which I love going to speak at with you. How do you stay grounded in the face of success, and what advice do you have for other entrepreneurs who are looking to maintain a sense of humility while also staying in a place of certainty for themselves?
Well, first, have 5 kids. I mean, nothing will ground you and make you more humble than having 5 kids. Second, I mean, right? You could come home, you could have the biggest deal of your life. Like, literally, I remember we took Zeta public on the New York Stock Exchange. It was about 2 years ago now. We had this big party. You know, they do all this stuff. It's really fun. I had taken my last company public on the NASDAQ, which is not as, like, ceremonial. It's more like you push a button. Like, the New York does it right. You know, founded by Alexander Hamilton, they're giving you a gavel and a hammer. We do this big thing. It's a multi-billion-dollar deal. My son was with us, and all my son cared about was like, where's the breakfast? I was like, the second thing you do is marry an amazing partner. Because I will tell you, the greatest decision of my adult life has been marrying my wife, Kristen. And she builds me up when I need it, and she's more than happy to bring me down when I need it. But it goes back to, I think, a lot of what Candy talked about. You are the sum of the parts of the people that you spend the most time with. And we all have friends, coworkers, and relatives that can find the bad in anything. And the more time you spend with them, and this is not a knock on different individuals, but the more they're going to bring you down. We then have those friends that can find the good in anything. And, you know, certain things you gotta mourn. There are things you've got to deal with that you can't find the good in. But for the mass majority of things, those are the people that when you spend time with is mission critical. One of the great stories of my life, like many of my great stories, came from my daughter Amelia, who's my middle daughter, and like many middle children, is very high EQ, very smart, bit precocious. And she said to me one day, Dad, I don't understand. You've got so many friends. And in my friend group, this might sound a little weird, I'm often considered the poor guy. I have some friends who are multi-billionaires, and we spend a lot of time together. The best man at my wedding is worth like $17 billion, and you did nothing but just rip on me for 3 days. But literally, my daughter came up to me and she said, "Dad, you're so successful. Why do you hang out with people who are so much more successful than you?" And I said, honey, I learned when I was a kid. I played tennis, which my son also makes fun of me for because he played football in Rose Crew. I played tennis in high school, then college, went to a bunch of camps. And I told my daughter very early in life, I learned that you never get better at playing tennis unless you're playing with somebody better than you. And that lesson has rippled through the rest of my life. And when I hang out with Tarek, I learn more about real estate than at any point in my entire life. And to me, like a lot of people, people ask all the time, what drives you? What gets you excited? It's intellectual curiosity for me. That's what drives me. I like to learn mostly stupid shit that's totally immaterial. But it's what I like to learn. It's like what I like to do. And I don't sleep much, and my wife sleeps a lot. So I joke I live 2 lives. One life while my wife is sleeping and one life while my wife is awake. And while she's sleeping, I just voraciously read all night. I read a lot. But for me, learning from Tarek, and, listen, I'm way too young to be a mentor, but, we all have a series of mentors. Thank you. Somebody at least got it.
I had to think about
I don't know how I got this mentor rap. I went from being like best friend to mentor. Now I'm like old. But the truth of the matter is, I learn from him every time we're together.
Oh, thank you. Can you guys tell I learned from him too? I mean, everything you said is 100% correct. You are who you surround yourself with. And if you want to get better, you have to play with better people. Like, it's really simple. Like, if you are the smartest in your friend group, you need to expand your friend group. If you are the most successful in your friend group, you need to expand your friend group. Because you need to learn and absorb from other people who've done more than you. I do the same thing. I want to learn from even me today, to this day. We want to learn. We want to grow. And that's how you do it, by making changes, getting yourself out there, going to new places, going into new environment. Like, one example of this is, like, I started lifting weights a lot again about 1.5 years ago. My first couple weeks back in the gym, I'm looking around, a little nervous. It's been a while. Now I go to the gym. I know every person in the gym because it's the same people there at the same time every day. So now I have new relationships because people stick to routines. They do the same things at the same times. So it's very important to just meet new people. All right.
Is this the next question I probably won't answer?
Yes. Yes. Let me read it to myself real quick.
Maybe paraphrase it?
Oh, yeah, I don't know who wrote this one. I'm just kidding. All right. We're going to talk about work-life balance. And man, sometimes it can commingle, because our life can be work. But that's why, we're here working this week. Well, it's not really work. This is fun. But we brought the kids, right? Because we wanted the kids here. So every 20, 30 minutes, I sneak out. I give them a hug. I give them a kiss. I go to the pool. We go hang out. We go have some fun. And that's how I handle work-life balance. But David, how would you say is the best way to handle work-life balance?
I'm probably the worst guy on the planet to ask that question because, there's this great old saying from an old philosopher named Confucius who said, if you love what you do, you will never work a day in your life. And much to my wife's chagrin, I love what I do. She's always like, can't we do more vacations? Can't we do this? Right, when are you retiring? Like, when are we doing? But to me, my best friends are the people I work with. My work is what drives so much happiness into my life. I'm always connected, once again, much to my wife's dismay. But at the same time, I get to hang out with my friends all day. I get to do what I really want to do. Now, you have to carve out time for your children, because if they don't feel loved, and I'm pontificating a bit, but for me, my kids feeling loved and feeling connected to me is a grounding for me. It makes me happy. It makes me feel grounded. My wife laughs. I have 3 older children, all 3 in college. I can't believe I'm old enough that my oldest daughter is graduating from college in 2 weeks. I don't feel that old. And then we have a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old. And for me, wow, exactly. Wow. Wow, he's really old to have a 1-year-old. I love that. Wow. But, wow aside, I speak to my 3 older kids almost every day, which is a little weird, right? My wife's always like, I can't believe you guys. And by the way, my older kids like my wife better than they like me. And it's just really important to me. And I was, on the phone with, and I was on a Zoom this morning with the governor of a state, a sitting admiral in the Navy, a very dear friend of mine who was a governor of a state, and my son buzzed in, and I paused them for a moment just to pick up and make sure my son was all right. He was, so I told him I'd call him back. But to me, putting family first doesn't mean you can't focus on your career. It means in the moment they need you, you're there. And in the moments they don't need you, you're doing what you need to do. And to me, that's sort of it. And by the way, Jeff Bezos, who obviously is a lot more successful than me, Jeff says the same thing. He talks about there is, and it doesn't, when he says it, and you hear it the first time, it sounds a bit contrite, but he says there is no work-life balance. But he's not suggesting all you do is work, and he's not suggesting all you do is spend time with family. He's talking about how do you build the blend? Like, how do you make it work for you and your family?
Absolutely. I mean, I learned a lesson from David yesterday. So I think he was talking to someone else, and I was overhearing a conversation about how years ago, he would get his kids on the weekends, and he would fly from China to go spend 2 nights with his kids and then fly back to China. So that's how important he treated his family time, where he literally flew across the world to spend 48 hours with his kids, and then he would fly back. And this wasn't one time, this was multiple times. And that's what it takes, If you want to live that life, well, you got to give it 100% in all categories. 100% family, 100% work, and that's what he's done.
I didn't know you were listening to that, Tarek.
I'm always listening, David. Even to the wow.
I was talking to your buddy Anthony.
Yeah. I learn from you. I absorb. Always listening. My wife thinks I'm never listening, but I'm listening. I might not be paying attention, but I'm listening. You look beautiful today, by the way. All right.
Brad, he's talking to you.
So, as an entrepreneur, we are always learning and growing. Can you share a particular challenge or setbacks that you faced during your career that shaped you positively, and what lessons did you learn?
Well, when people ask me a question like that, I know there's a lot of people who have to think a long time. For me, there's a really definitive answer. I had some pretty unique success at a pretty young age. I was very, very blessed, very lucky. I had started my career. I came out of school. I went to work for a young Senator Biden. We'll keep the political talk aside tonight. But Joe was my first boss. And I had learned about wireless issues, and they were starting to sell all these wireless licenses. And I was like, I should go buy some of those. This would be really cool. So I went and started a company called Sterling Cellular. And I had founded that company and part of the Cellular One group. And we did all this. What?
How old were you?
I was 21 when I founded Sterling, and we sold that when I was 26 and then founded a few more. But not the point of the story. The point of the story is in 2008, much like Mary, who said she had started in the real estate business, I had taken a company public in 2004. My favorite joke is we were the second largest tech IPO in 2004 behind this shitty little company called Google. They fared a little bit better than we did. But we got caught up in the debt crisis of 2007, 2008. We had borrowed a bunch of money from Goldman Sachs to buy back our stock in an up market. Oh God, she's recording this. I shouldn't be saying all this. I forgot this is going to be live somewhere. Forget about who we borrowed the money from. But we borrowed the money from a bank, and we bought our stock back in an up market. And then we woke up one day and we had a ton of debt in 2008, and our then bank, which was not them, it was another bank who had traded the debt, foreclosed on us. And I went from running a multi-billion-dollar company with 5,000 or 6,000 employees that I had founded and was the chairman and CEO of, to sitting in an office with 4 people. I was in the middle of a divorce from my ex-wife, who's, by the way, an amazing woman, but my ex-wife. People are recording, so I got to be careful here. Not only did I lose the vast majority of my net worth on the implosion of that company, but then I got divorced, and we all know how that goes, right? So now I'm sitting there. It was rough. And I sort of looked around, and I was like, all right, what's next? And I restarted, and I founded a fund, which is an investment fund today that I'm still chairman of. And then out of that fund, I founded what is today Zeta Global. And I decided that I would take the vast majority of my net worth at that time, which was, $10 million at that time, and put all of it into myself. Because I didn't want to go raise outside capital, because I didn't want to have to listen to somebody else at that point. And the good news and the bad news is today I'm still the majority controller of Zeta, which is a multi-billion-dollar publicly traded company. The fund is now very large. You sort of go from being really successful to losing. I know 10 sounds like a lot, but at the time, it was not what passed for good news when I had owned 37% of a $2 billion company that went under. But the reality was the comeback, I bet on myself, and, turned out to be a good decision.
I love that story so much. So you guys think about what he just shared with us. Publicly traded company, valued at billions of dollars, winning, life's going amazing. One day, offices are empty, the lights are off. He's down to 4 people with a bunch of boxes. Talk about rock bottom. But every single entrepreneur will go through that experience.
100%.
Every single one. And you learn through your failures, and that's how you make progress.
I don't even call them failures. I say we either win or learn. And that was a very expensive lesson. Now, people ask me all the time today, why do I do so many things? Well, because I'm not going to fuck that up again. Right? I'm going to be in a lot of different things this time.
I never heard you say that. You know what's funny? You want to know why I do so many different things? Because in 2008, I was only in real estate. So
right.
The exact same reasons. Diversify, diversify, diversify.
And by the way, my last company was a very high growth company that didn't have a lot of profit, with a lot of debt. This company, will make. I think I've got to be careful here. We are a publicly traded company, and on Thursday I'm doing my earnings report. But we have already publicly projected over $110 million in net profit this year, and most analysts think we'll do more than that. Right? So, what do? You win or you learn. I'm not building another high growth company that loses lots of money with lots of debt.
Yeah, it would make sense. I like that.
You'd be shocked how many people don't learn from their failures. They just do the same thing again and again.
Fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. So everyone in this room, just the fact that you're here tells me you are a growth mindset person, and that's the mindset you need to become an entrepreneur and to scale your life to that next level. So David, as someone building multiple businesses, how do you cultivate a strong company culture at Zeta that promotes entrepreneurship, innovation, but also fosters support and collaboration?
Yeah, it's one of the hardest and most not talked about things in any company you build. It's culture. And it's a word you hear a lot, but what does it really mean? What it means is, how are we going to treat each other as employees? How are we going to treat our customers? How are we going to treat our vendors? How are we going to treat the vendors if they're having a challenge? That is what culture is at its highest level. And at Zeta, we really talk about a multi-pronged culture. We have a bunch of virtues, which I won't recite here today, but almost all of those virtues are about empowering the people who we work with, empowering our customers, empowering the people that are in the different constituencies we come in. And then one of the things I've learned over the years as we've built companies, I mean, we have 26 offices on 4 continents at Zeta alone. Forget about the fund and the other stuff. And, how do you extrapolate that culture across the world? So what do we talk about? We talk about winning together. We talk about getting 1% better every day. We talk about empowering different constituencies. We've been all in on women empowerment. We've been all in on diversity, inclusion, and empowerment. We're all in on being there for the people we work with when they're having a tough time. We're all about learning. We have an internal school we call it Zeta University, where we teach each other what we do and what we're experts at. And we always want to help everybody in our organization and in our communities to get better.
I love everything you just said. And this is very important for all of you as you're getting into the entrepreneur world, or if you're scaling to the next level. A lot of people think, to be the boss or to be the leader is telling people what to do. Oh, it is not that at all. My job is not to tell people what to do. That's the last thing I do, okay? If you really want to find more success than you ever thought possible, you have to truly care about the people you work with. You really have to care. And you have to inspire them and motivate them and care about them and truly be their biggest cheerleader and help them succeed and help them chase their dreams. Because the truth is, a company is only as strong as its leader. And if the leader isn't someone to look up to, the company's never going to be where it needs to be.
I say all the time, my primary job is to hire the world's greatest people and let them do their jobs. And when they...
Yes.
And for me, it's funny because I look at the team that we've put together. And if you look at we look at it almost like a partnership at the top 12 people of our company globally. Every one of them could be CEOs of another company. Every one of them. So, but yet they've entrusted their career, they've entrusted the safety and future of their family to our organization. And we take that very seriously. So the decisions that we make then go down to every level of the organization, because every one of those people, every one of them, go home every night and feed their families because of the decisions we make. And I take that responsibility very seriously. I think most great leaders do. And I don't care if you have 1 employee or 10,000 employees, they are all doing that because of you. Five minutes to lunch. I've got it on a teleprompter. Nobody wants me to finish more than my wife. She's famished.
We'll make it quick. So, what is next for David Steinberg? You know, you've...
Lunch?
Yeah, it has to. But really, though, what's next for you? I mean, you've accomplished all these incredible, amazing things. You're the smartest human I know. What's next? Like, what else is out there for you? What are you thinking about?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I do think of a lot of new business ideas all the time. And one of the great things about our fund, which is called Cavis Investment Corp, is we incubate businesses, we seed businesses, we invest in businesses, we invest in funds that invest in other businesses. We're always like, you know, when people ask me, what's my hobby? I say, business. I just love it. If I'm not doing it, I'm sort of reading about it. I'm sort of trying to learn it. I'm trying to go to the next level. And, you know, I can't sit here today and say what's next, because I will say, and I want to be super transparent, Zeta is my full-time gig. Like, I am all in on it. I love it. I love the people I work with. I love our clients. I love what we get to do. I mean, the cool thing is, right, we're taking data and artificial intelligence and helping large enterprises to better figure out how to manage their marketing and business intelligence. So I one day might be sitting at General Motors. Oh, can't talk about client names, they're recording. I one day might be sitting at a very large automotive manufacturer and trying to help them figure out how to develop the next EV vehicle from the ground up, because you want to now embed the marketing into the business intelligence, into product development. That's where it's going. And literally the next day, I might be sitting with the CEO of the largest bank in the United States, talking to him about our capital structure and how we're helping them to issue more credit cards. So I get to really satiate a lot of my intellectual curiosity through the different verticals. And we operate in 14 different verticals as a company, none of which make up more than 13% of our sales. You can tell I'm getting ready for our earnings call that I know this shit. But the reality is that it gives me the unique opportunity to spend time in lots of different places. And even my friendships. I mean, Tarek is literally one of my best friends. If we're not talking about the kids, we're talking about business. It's sort of like what we get together and talk about. So I can't say there's anything definitively next other than continuing to make Zeta the greatest marketing cloud in the world.
And I believe it's going to happen because you are...
Forrester did name us #1 in the world this year, ahead of Salesforce, Oracle, Adobe, Epsilon. So we were very happy to have been named #1. So
wow.
We were very happy about that.
I didn't know that. You were ahead of...
By the way, this is a great story. So if you don't know, Forrester is sort of the definitive rating service for technology platforms, right? So when Forrester comes in, it's like they're like a really big deal, and like you really have to kiss their ass, and you really have to do all this stuff, and they're brilliant and they're really great. 3 years ago, when we'd been doing this for 15 years, but we really pivoted the business about 5-6 years ago into AI and data all in. And we sort of started it. We bought a couple of companies that were experts in it. We let them do their jobs, and we germinated it. And I had to sit in a board meeting and say, yep, we're going to go from making $50 million a year in profit to breaking even for the next 3 years, because I'm going to spend $150 million building the next generation marketing platform, and nobody in the world is going where we're going. We're going to put data and artificial intelligence as core to the application layer. We say native, but we'll say core for today. And literally, my board looked at me like I was totally fucking nuts. Now, the good news is I vote 72% of the shares, so it puts me in a good position. We did settle on going down to 20 million in profit and doing it a little bit slower. But long story short, 2 years ago, Forrester put us on their list. Now there's probably 1,000 companies globally that do what we do, and they named us the 9th of 9, and we threw a party. Like, we literally threw a party that we were on the list. We're 9th of 9. This is incredible. Last year, they named us number 1 in the world, ahead of Salesforce, ahead of Adobe, ahead of Oracle, ahead of Epsilon. And it was one of the true great moments of my personal and professional life.
I would say so.